Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, I would like to invite you for a conversation with Mr. Ramdev Agarwalji, Chairman Motilal Oswal. It's a pleasure to be here and to welcome you all. I will just briefly initially introduce you to the organizations responsible for today's events, starting with Roundtable India. Just give me a second, please. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, Ashish, we can see your screen.
Playing the video for the next partner organization, Lady Circle.
One seed can grow a tree. One tree can start a forest. One smile can begin a friendship. One hand can lift a soul. One candle can wipe out darkness. One touch can show you care. One life can make the difference. Be that one today.
So this roundtable area collaboration is with the partner roundtable areas, area 3, area 4, area 5, area 6, area 7, area 8, area 9, area 10, area 11, area 14, area 16, area 17, area 18, and lady circle area numbers 3, 5, 6, 8, and 14. We thank you everyone for your support and your cooperation in making this event today happen. Our third partner organization is called Perfect Foundation. Perfect Foundation has been the community service arm for the Perfect Group and focuses on health literacy and vocational education. On the health front, it has been distributing, along with partner NGOs like Bhavrav Devras, 2,000 people free food every day for the last few years. More than 25 lakh people have benefited. At the same time, it is also managing, along with Bhavrav Devras, a 300-bed facility at AIIMS Powergrid Vishram Sadan, which was inaugurated by Modi ji himself. Here are a few photos of the events. It also takes seminars and education and runs an hostel for outstation students along with Marwadi Manch. And using the support of Marwadi Manch, the hostel has been running for the last 20 years. Hundreds of professionals have passed out from here, CA, IPS, and MBA. Here are a post of a few seminars conducted by Perfect Foundation over the years to promote entrepreneurship, vocational education, and literacy. Our last partner organization is called Perfect Research. This is an organization which is a family office and investing in markets. The family office has presented its presentations across leading organizations like IIM Calcutta, IIM Indore, leading FIs, Fidelity, SBI Mutual Fund. They have made presentations at these forums. We would like to thank our role models, Ramdev ji, and other role models where we have taken learnings and got ahead in life. Now, I would like to hand over to Vishal sir to introduce Motilal Oswal Wealth briefly.
Hi, thank you for joining in. Thank you, Ashish, for giving us this opportunity. And thank you, Ramdev ji, for being here on a Saturday. I'll just quickly introduce, I know everybody's here to listen to Ramdev ji, so I'll not take too much time. I'll just quickly, introduce the private wealth part of the Motilal Financial Services Group. Is my slide visible, Ashish?
Yes, Vishal, it's visible.
Perfect. So, we are a part of the Motilal Oswal Financial Services Group. And as a part of the group, we have the backing of 30 years of solid research that the firm has been doing. We have access to their investment banking division, their equity, commodity, currency trading division, the housing finance division, the asset management division. Today, we manage around 3,000 plus families throughout all the key cities of India. We manage this AUM figure is of March. We currently manage around 18,000 crores plus AUM. We have 129 relationship managers managing this AUM. And we have a 29-member product and advisory team who supports the relationship managers in ensuring that we bring the best-in-class products across the industry to our clients, and also help them do a review, in-depth review on their portfolios, to do health checkup on their portfolios, and to see if their portfolios are aligned both in terms of markets as well as their own aspirations or goals of the products that they're buying. In terms of services, we are a full service platform, which basically means that whatever we don't do in-house, we have tie up with partners to help facilitate that for clients. So it be it a regular investment platform, which is providing clients mutual fund, PMS and AIF advisory services. Our ancillary services such as tax, legal advisory, EB5 visas, golden visas, international whole life insurance policies. Our specialized services such as investment banking and family office, providing clients access to alternate assets like private equity, real estate, structured products, providing clients access to a world state-of-the-art trading platform. We are one of the best trading companies in the country today with one of the strongest IE divisions, where we help clients trade in stocks, commodities, currency. We have tie-ups for credit solutions for clients, be it LAS on mutual funds, car loans, loan against property. So we are a full service wealth platform. servicing more or less, like I said, the entire key country cities of India. This is our key members of our firm. The founders of the firm, Mr. Motilal Oswal, Mr. Ramdev Agarwal, and the CEO of our firm, Vidin Sumanshi, and Ashish Shankar, the Deputy Managing Director of our firm, who was supposed to be here today, but because of a family exigency, couldn't join in. Our approach is very simple. We have a proprietary fund manager selection criteria, basis which we select funds for our clients, both on the equity and the debt side. And this is based off 18 years of research that we have done on all these asset classes. I will not go through this in detail. I just, I would rather have more time for Ramdevji. Anyone who has any interest or queries about our approach towards family office, about our approach towards advisory, please type in the Q&A section, and I will send you on the chat the details of the people who you can get in touch with. With that, over to you, Ashish, and we can start the session with Ramdevji. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I'll just stop. Yeah, I'm just stopping the screen share.
Friends, it's an absolute honor to have Ramdevji between us. Just to introduce Ramdevji, Ramdev Agarwalji, Chairman and co-founder of the Motilal Oswal Group, is the driving force behind the company's approach to investing. Founded in 1987, Motilal Oswal is a well-diversified financial services firm focused on Indian equity capital markets and research. As chairman of his asset management business, Motilal AMC, Ramdevji has framed the QGLP framework, which is quality, growth, longevity, and favorable price. This investment framework and its buy right, sit tight investing philosophy. He is the driving force behind the group, highly awarded research, and has authored the annual Motilal Oswal Wealth Creation Study since its inception in 1996. Ramdevji is an associate of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and a member of the National Committee on Capital Markets of CII. He is also featured on Wizards of Dalal Street on CNBC TV 18. In 1986, he wrote the book Corporate Numbers Game along with co-author Ram K. Piparia. He has also authored the book The Art of Wealth Creation, which compiles insights from his 22 wealth creation studies. Ramdevji has been awarded the Rashtriya Samman Patra by CBDT for a consistent track record of highest integrity. Ramdevji has been awarded as Chhattisgarh Citizen of the Year in 2018 at Chhattisgarh Excellence Awards from the hands of none other than himself, Honorable CM of Chhattisgarh, Dr. Raman Singh. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Ramdevji to this forum. Ramdevji, thank you so much for being here with us. Can you hear us, sir?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, friends. And I mean, this is an honor to address not only roundtable, but ladies circle. So I don't know how many ladies are listening to this, because mostly we get very few ladies to listen to any of these functions. So I'll be very honored. I'm very honored that some ladies are here, and I'll try to address to keeping them in mind, whatever I say. So Ashish, you can go ahead.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. We have close to 200 members already logged in, and they all look forward to learning here today. I start with the first question, sir. Sir, coming from a humble family from Chhattisgarh and completing a CA in Mumbai, what was the thought process while starting Motilal Oswal, and what challenges you faced in the initial course?
Yeah, so, this is a long journey of coming from village. Actually, I lived in a village in Chhattisgarh. I mean, even now, Chhattisgarh villages are really backward. I mean, what you get to see in movies as villages, kacha makan and, barely any sanitation, kacha road, and those kind of villages completely cut off and no development. So, when I was staying in village way back in say early 70s or late 60s actually, so 65 to 70. So at that point of time, there was no electricity also. So I studied till 4th standard without electricity. So you can imagine what kind of education we got. It was struggle to get even 5-10 students in the classroom. And there was one teacher for 5 classes. So anyway, somehow we scraped through and we learned the basics, and then I came to Raipur, and there I got formal admitted into good school, and that's how the journey started. And for doing CA, somehow I ended up in Mumbai because my brother was here. So I landed up here, and it was a big struggle because I was coming from Hindi medium, and my handwriting was bad, and my, of course, English was also bad. So English I caught up quickly, but handwriting remained where it was. So when I was doing CA, the first biggest challenge was how do you pass CA? So in CA, there must be some members here who are chartered accountant. Are you chartered accountant, Ashish?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, so you know all the game.
I know.
So I failed 3 times, and then in intermediate, and I failed in all the theory papers. So then I realized that I'm failing because my handwriting is bad. So at the age of 24, I changed my handwriting. At the age of 23, I changed my handwriting, and from KG to whatever, everything I did. So I changed my handwriting, and with the changed handwriting, when I appeared, again I failed because I couldn't complete the paper. So then I did speed writing practice in good handwriting, and then I passed without any problem. So that first hurdle was such a huge challenge for me, but just the commitment to pass somehow and struggle in Mumbai. In Mumbai, if you're failed, you're out of the hostel. It is very tough to really find places and meet up with the expenses and all. Then in 84, 85, I did. I failed somewhere in while I was doing audits. I was reading a lot of books, a lot of fiction, and the fictions were all were about American what do you call financial fictions. So the financial fictions, they will have billion-dollar show thing, silver bear, zero coupon bond. Those were the topics on which the books were written. Money changer, and so those kind of books I read, and that shaped up my mind for making big money, because all these fictions are about making big money and then finally get caught or whatever. So it got into my mind that let's make big money, because we are chartered accountants, we can make money, we understand how to make money. That was a confidence with which I went in with zero. I mean, I didn't have a penny in my pocket, and my brother was good enough to hand over his 5-7 lakhs of savings for me to invest in stock market. So that became my playing ground, and I learned my entire stock market thing. So first thing is that when you come to the market, you come with very small amount of money, so that your entire tuition happens at a very little cost. So my brother paid all the cost for my learning of stock market, and I did equity research in between 85 to 87, wrote a book, and then I started Motilal Oswal. So now I look back, when we have nothing, no introduction, no money, no capital, there is nobody with you, you are alone. So it is your thought, your commitment, your energy, and your passion, and your value system, biggest thing, your value system, and your clarity of thinking of the future. These are all your assets, but there is nothing on the ground. So it is, I mean, for me, it was a very clear thinking, because somewhere I was very clear that I want to pursue what I'm passionate about. And I was passionate about the stock market, not about chartered accountancy. So I got into stock market, and then we said, without money, what can you start? You can start broking only. And I grabbed 1 or 2 clients and started Motilal Oswal, and that's how it started. So beginning was very humble. I'm really humble. Like we didn't even spend 100 rupees. I still remember I spent 180 rupees buying some registers for bookkeeping and some xeroxing of contracts and bills, because we were not sure whether we should spend few thousand rupees on doing this thing permanently. So it was all very humble beginning, and then you kept on building it up. And of course there are challenges, but if you have clear thought, passion, commitment, I think you can build. I mean, I've seen with all the adversities, I mean, we have built Motilal Oswal.
Wonderful, sir. I think that's very inspirational for all of us. And most of the participants here have also seen your video on 0 to 1,000 crores,
Yeah.
which is again, I think, so inspirational for all of us, how you build from nothing to today's journey. Sir, on a follow-up question, in this journey of 0 to 1,000 crores, can you share some lessons for all us investors, how to build initial capital? Maybe some struggles there and how to build up there so that compounding can start happening. Maybe somebody is working in a job, maybe somebody is struggling in a business. How do you start thinking in terms of building initial capital?
So I did mention that I didn't have capital. So I had to find a business model where it is a seller's market. See, when it is a buyer's market, you need a lot of capital. When anything is in short supply, you don't need any capital. So that's what I did. I found broking services that time was a complete scarcity. In 87, because there were few members of BSE and the clients were too many. And it was very restrictive. It was a physical trade, 2 hours market. Execution of the orders were very tough, and particularly small orders, so nobody would even bother about it. So clearly, it was a very, very scarce services, and we were amongst the early professionals. So I could realize that my competition is not there, and it's a seller's market in the sense that whatever service you offer, it will be taken up. So from day one, we were busy, and we didn't require any capital, and we started earning 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees per day. And by the time in 1990, we were making 40,000-50,000 rupees also per day. Wow. So you start slowly, and you got to have very clearly, see, because I'm a chartered accountant, so I had my path. I mean, mathematically, I had charted out in my mind that whatever money comes, that very day I used to buy my stocks. So if I make 10,000 rupees, I will buy that very day 10,000 rupees worth of stock. So I was always a voracious buyer from 87 day one. So so I never saw a brokerage money coming in by way of check. It always came by way of stock. So the Valan or whatever settlement which used to happen, in that case you get 1 lakh, 2 lakh rupees brokerage. I used to get 2 lakhs rupees worth of stocks, and that's how we kept on building. And the power of compounding, that works so wonderfully well if you remain in the market, but you require a lot of time for the power of compounding to work. You have to set the start of the power of compounding in as early as possible in capital making. So in power of compounding, what happens is the rate is important, but the time is even more important. I mean, if people are busy trying to say, let my money double in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. That is not important. What is important is you earn 15%, but can you earn 15% compounded for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? And then you see how big is the pie you make. So at 15%, in 5 years it doubles, in 10 years it goes 4 times, in 20 years, that your money keeps growing. And in initial phase, typically compounding rates are very high. Like it could be as high as 50%, 40%. At 40%, every 2 years you double. So for 10 years, if you keep doubling 2 raised to power 5, so it can be pretty fast. So you say if you start with 1 lakh, going to a crore would not take much time. It will take just about 5, 6, 7 years. And then, so what happens is that things also come to your, if you are working hard, what happens is the external opportunities also come on your side. So when we worked between 87 and 90, things were tough. Actually, it was a bear market. So we made 15 lakhs rupees in 4 years after paying taxes and everything. But the moment we bought membership in BSE in 1990, Harsha Mehta bull run happened. So in 18 months, we made 30 crores. Wow. So in 87, we didn't have 1 lakh. In 92, I had 30 crores worth of portfolio, wow, which collapsed to 10 crores. But 10 crores is also a lot of money. Even today, it is a good amount of money. But then it was like little fortune. Can you believe 2 Lucas from the hostel, having 10, 20, 30 crores? We didn't have even a car. We didn't have a house to stay. I mean, we're living on rentals or paying gas and those kind of things. So the point is that once you got 10 crores, then there are a lot of advisors and your own mind works that you have tested your first, initial thought, how you want to move. Then you have to replicate and make it bigger and bigger. then we become NSE member, then we started mutual fund, then we started. So whole lot of things start happening, and your compounding machine must keep working on the back of it. It must keep working. You must keep becoming bigger and bigger. From that 1 lakh crores, we are almost like 5,000 crores net worth. Forget about the market cap.
Wow.
Now, right now, the group is worth 5,000 crores market cap. Sorry, net worth. And whatever you might say, 2 book, 3 book, whatever you can say. But what I'm saying is that you have to start at the early stage, the power of compounding. But what you do could be very different today. Opportunities are multifold today. And it all depends on where you are good at. And hopefully you are passionate about also what you are good at. And when this two comes together, you have to formulate a business model, and rest all time will take care, I'm quite sure.
It's wonderful, sir. And your humility is always so inspirational in terms of how you mention it. Sir, on your journey of 1,000 crores, we have always seen that you are always invested in the markets, be it crisis, be it any economic problems or something. Could you maybe explain to our audience here also that why you believe staying invested is better rather than taking out money for Corona has happened, demonetization happened, GST happened? Why staying invested is better in the long run? Could you just throw some lights? Because people keep trying to time the markets. It's not a good time to invest. Maybe take out money.
Yeah, so if there are million guys in the market, there are million ways of making money. Okay. So what works for me, or the way I'm designed, I mean, this is what works for me. And I firmly believe nobody can time the market. You feel bullish when market is on top of the world or very close to the market top of the world, and you feel bearish. At least this is the condition with me. I feel very bearish, very close to the bottom of the market. In fact, a lot of people, they tell me that Ramdev, the day on which you are bearish, we start buying. So, I mean, literally, a lot of people, they take me as an indicator of bottom and tops of the market. I mean, tops, so they cannot figure out, but bottom definitely. So, that's the track record of mine. But you could be very good in figuring out tops and bottoms. So you can definitely practice some amount of going in cash and all. But that doesn't work for me. I don't want to waste time. This is a fool's paradise. This entire trying to time the market. I've not seen anybody who has sold at the high and bought at the bottom, or so those kind of things are not possible. I mean, now people are finding it difficult to even predict current today itself after reading the paper. Like today, how market will behave, that has become very difficult after reading the paper. So timing the market is, I don't think anybody can do it. I have not come across anybody who can consistently do it. So best is that why bother about it? Be in the game throughout. In any case, in the last 40 years or 35 years, index has gone from 350 to 35,000. I have seen 100x. So 2-4-5 महीने नीचे रहेगा, थोड़ा खराब लगेगा, but again market comes back. So downs are temporary, ups are permanent. So I mean, what I've seen is only bullish market. Bulk of the time, 8-9 years out of 10 years are bull market. I mean, in fact, last 10 years been a little more challenging, but still we get enough good share of 50-60% bull market. So why bother about timing the market?
Great advice, sir. Sir, a lot of audience here want to know how to participate in markets. There are so many options: index funds, mutual funds, PMS, direct equity investing. So how would you guide people who are not full-time into markets, how to compound wealth using markets? If you could throw some light there.
So it depends on your profile. If you are good in stock picking and you have the time and perseverance, basically, and go through all the reading the balance sheet, reading the books, reading all sorts of things, listening to all kinds of social media drama, newspapers. I mean, it's a full-time job basically. So if you are good at that, obviously you must manage your own money, and you should love to. I mean, there are a lot of guys who have retired from corporate world. They are very good in picking management, which is 90% of the job. So they can buy at early stage or later stage because they know the management team is fantastic. So there could be one set of people who can do their own investing, but otherwise, if you cannot do it yourself, then best is to give it to professional. Now, when you go to give it to professional, there are 3-4 ways of doing it. One, you can buy mutual funds, which is the most tax friendly and designed for the smallest of the investors to biggest of the investors. and it is world's best designed product. I can tell you this. Mutual funds in India is so tax friendly, is not funny, and SEBI is on top of it, super friendly. So for the investors, so you have that, and you have lots of variety in that, and good, bad, ugly, all kinds of managers are there. You can pick and choose managers, and they will do a reasonably good job. Then you have PMSs, which is nothing but again, management by, it's like a mutual fund, but it is the tax structure is different, the vehicle is different. So here you own your own shares rather than getting the NAV. And there is a flexibility to own any company of any size. You can have 15%, 20% in the portfolio. You can have a very, very concentrated portfolio in PMS. These are two ways of giving your money, managing your money if you are not doing it yourself. Within equities, you have another, like you have venture capital funds, you have private equity funds, you have now grown up listed funds. So equity per se has a lot of variety and a lot of possibility. It all depends how your risk profile is. And but one thing in equity, I would say, never do what you don't understand. Don't do anything for greed or fear. If you have got into the stock market and there is a general environment of fear, don't act under the fear. And if somebody comes and says that I'm going to give you 15%, I'm going to give you 20%, this is sure it is going to double, just run away from there. Don't do anything. So till you are convinced and you think that it's a genuine stuff and you're going to get fair deal here, don't get into the stock market.
Great advice, sir. Sir, picking on the mutual fund theme only, there are so many mutual funds out there in the market. If you could throw some light on how to select a mutual fund or what we should look at. A lot of investors sometimes don't even know, and then they are not able to figure out which funds to invest. If you could just throw some light on that.
So one is that, you got to know the guy who's managing it, and there are reputations and things, but that's where the wealth manager comes in play. They will give all kinds of analytics and advice also, because it's a very, I know about myself, I don't know about others. So I would say give the money to me, but that's not fair. You deserve to get the best manager, So that wealth manager will help you, show you who are the guys who are in race, or whom you think have the right kind of mindset, profile, experience, brand equity, with whom you are comfortable. I can tell you one thing, that highest performing fund of last 1 year or 2 years are not the best managers. Probably because even the performance is cyclical. So what happens is, some funds, they do very well, and then the same funds are at the bottom after 3-4 years. Like we were right on top for first 4 years. For last 1.5, 2 years, we are at the bottom. So this thing keeps happening. The guys who are on the top, they will come to the bottom. The guys who are at the bottom, they will go to the top. So you have to figure out, cutting across this noise, who are the guys with whom you are comfortable. You like the investment philosophy. You see the portfolio. You like the names out there. And then I think some performance metrics will be there at the last whatever dates you want. That wealth manager should be able to help you think through.
Sir, just to come here, a lot of investors which we talk about and business people, especially always say gold or property as two alternatives to equity markets. Property गिरता नहीं है, बढ़ता रहता है, या gold को देखिए आप long term. So compared to equities, any thoughts you would like to give, sir, ki why equity or versus like gold or property? How would you like to put across equity for them?
Yeah, so I'm comfortable with equity because I understand it, and I eat, drink, sleep equity. So for me, it's different. But this is a wonderful asset class where you can get appreciation and liquidity. T+1 liquidity, and it is you can be a little lucky, and it can appreciate anywhere between 10 to 15% compounded for long times to come. And it's a tension free. It is there with you. You can give it to your next generation or anybody very, very comfortably. Real estate has one big problem, that is the liquidity. When you want liquidity, it is not there. Second, I think now even the rate of return for last 5-7 years has been quite pathetic. It has become very competitive, very illiquid, and you need to be master of the game, in the sense that if you are very good in striking a deal, very special deal with builder or whatever, you might be well off, but even there liquidity is a challenge. So, but if you are comfortable with real estate, you can do, because real estate is going to be is the largest industry in the world and will be very vibrant in next 5-10 years. So the current depression in real estate is passing phase, and I'm sure there will be a lot of opportunities here for the people who are masters. Not for me. I don't have a stomach for real estate, but in Delhi, people have a lot of stomach for the real estate, and they have to test whether how the stomach is right now. And so, would they like incrementally to stay in the real estate the way they are today, or they would like to make some change? But there's no harm in, if you know the game, there's no harm in being in that. And so it is between fixed income, real estate, and equities. You know, wherever you are comfortable, I think you should be there. And fixed income, the problem is that interest rates have really come down to 4-5%. And my sense is it will go even lower in next 12 to 18 months. And gold is not a really viable asset class. I mean, it's good for jewelry and for ladies to, talk about it, but I don't think you can make a meaningful, no, though it is available in paper form now, you can buy gold bonds and things like that. But I mean, I'm still not convinced, though there is a lot of prediction that it is going to go to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. But since I don't understand, I don't buy. But you can take advice of anybody else and go about doing it.
Great, sir. Sir, in your QGLP framework, a lot of times when we know Nestle is a great company, HUL is a great company, they will grow. A lot of times I think people face this question is how to think about price, how much to pay up for quality, because some of these franchises keep compounding, and some of times for a period of almost 10 years, HUL didn't make any money for investors. So any thoughts on how to look at this pricing element in the QGLP framework, sir?
Yeah, so we look at the peg. I mean, if the company is growing, if the quality is of the good quality, and if the earnings growth is at 15%, we typically don't like to pay more than 2 times. That is 30p. That is a max. I mean, I want to buy at 1 peg or less than 1 peg. That's my usual way. But depending on the quality of the company, like Nestle, Liver, even 3 times is good. 45 is good. So 45, 50 is also okay. And to some extent, you have to also see for last 15, 20 years, what kind of a valuation companies, because these are not ordinary companies. These are outstanding companies. And there are very few outstanding companies. These companies are born when stars align, So these companies are not to be built every day. So these companies are rare companies, and they have literally 100% free cash flow to their profit. And they keep nicely growing. They're unthreatened for their existence. And as the economy grows, they also keep growing at 10, 12%. So the earnings power keep growing. So markets have developed and their dividend payouts are very good. So all the oldies, they love to get dividends from them. So they are very stable, they have visible growth. They were there 100 years back, they'll be there 100 years henceforth. So this valuation of quality and growth is there, but longevity part of it. Say Motilal Oswal is 20 years old company. So we can say another 10, 15, 20 years it is good. But we cannot say that 100 years it will be good. But when it comes to HUL and Nestle, I mean, they were there 200 years back, they'll be there for next 200 years. At least what is going to the truth, that God only knows. But at least the feeling is that these companies are going to live forever, and hence the valuation. So it is a little tricky thing. I mean, you cannot that easily, give a formula for this. But say like in real estate, in one area, in the same address, you'll have the 5 plots. But all the 5 plots or 5 flats will have a different valuation. I mean, same address, same key address, whatever, Vasant Kunj or whatever is the South X or whatever. So you'll have all the 5 one after the other, but the price could be very different. I mean, and in Mumbai, you go nuts looking at the building prices. I mean, like my building is ₹1 lakh per square foot. The adjoining compound is not even 50,000 rupees per square foot. So how do you handle this? So pricing of the stock is somewhat like that, but still there is a method in the madness. You're not going to get the next door at 10,000 rupees. You will get at 60, 70 only. There'll be some gap, but there won't be, multiple X gap. So you have to understand that is an art of understanding the valuation. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. So when you are buying HUL at 5 lakh crores, you must understand what you are getting today and into the perpetuity. So that feel should be there. So one other thing I do is I can compound and do the summation of compounding. So I'll give you an example. Typically, what a good company will earn in next 10 years should be the price of the stock today. Okay. So if a company is earning a 1 rupee today and it is growing at 25% in next 10 years, that's what the thinking is. In that case, the company will be 10 times earning in 10 years. You know, I mean, 10th year it will be 10 rupees. But how much it will earn between year 1 and year 10? The total earnings will be 42 rupees. So now it depends how much you want to pay for this kind of machine. Many times you can get it for 12, 15 also. Because market doesn't calculate it that way. So this is where the opportunity comes. Unknown companies or new companies, you can get it for 10, 12. The company which could be worth 42. And many times the same company, when it becomes popular, you will get it for 84. So what you want to do, so this is the place where 1 rupee thing can be sold for 10 rupees and 10 rupee thing can be sold for 1 rupee. So, I mean, वो थोड़ा आपको समझना पड़ेगा कि आपकी समझ कितनी है. And it doesn't matter what you didn't buy has gone up. What matters is what you bought, has it worked or not?
Sure.
Because there are 4,000 stocks, you have 20 stocks. बाकी काम नहीं करता, बाकी में कुछ भी हो मेरे क्या करने का यार.
Sure.
मेरा पैसा डबल होना चाहिए 3 साल में. So I am that focused on that.
Very nice, sir. Sir, building on this only, number of stocks, Peter Lynch had hundreds of stocks, and Charlie Munger says you don't need to have many stocks.
Yeah.
What is your approach in terms of, especially when you say focused portfolio, or your advice for investors in terms of number of stocks? How should one think about it?
Yeah, so I am from the Buffett, Charlie Munger, frame of mind, where in 94, when I first heard about Buffett, for 10 crore portfolio, I had 200 stocks. So when I read Buffett, then I realized that what mistake I'm committing. I'm buying anything and everything. You cannot understand. The first fundamental thing is, as I said, don't do anything what you don't understand. So buy stocks which you understand. Second, buy good business, good management at reasonable price. As simple as this is the framework. Now the point is that how many businesses you can understand. Understanding a business is a very tricky thing. You know, I mean, you have to understand, I mean, say understand a cement company. Understanding making cement, any technical guy can understand, or a lot of people can understand how it happens. But it's not about the cement. It is about how he makes a lot of money in cement and how long he will keep making. Like one guy makes 500 rupees EBITDA, other guy makes 1500 rupees EBITDA. Cement वही का वही है, same भाव में बिकता है. You know, Sri Cement makes 1500 rupees and Birla Corp makes 500 rupees. तो ये कैसे होता है? Both of them are operating in the same market, more or less same price में बिकता है सामान. So understanding that 1000 rupees का advantage कहाँ पर आता है इसको, and how long it will continue, and how big he will make it. Say he starts with 5 million, but he might go to 50 million or 100 million. तो वो सब पूरा गणित जो है ना बैठाने का, the current profitability, growth, and how much you think, how long it can go, and hence total profits. And total profits का यदि मान लो आता है 4,200 crores. So currently am I getting for 1,000 crores, 2,000 crores, 5,000 crores, 10,000 crores, 20,000, कितने मिल रहा है? It all depends on, you know, that kind of situation.
Got it, sir. Sir, in terms of position sizing, if you see a lot of great investors in India and abroad, their success has been explained by a few stocks, which they have done really well for them. Now, in terms of position sizing, could you guide in terms of, should we have some sort of limits, say 5%, 10%, 15, 20? How should one think in terms of how to position stocks?
This is again another tricky subject. You know, I mean, I'm still struggling. In fact, one thing I want to get educated more, but there are not many literature. I mean, I asked some international guys. He sent me some 40 or 50 aggregation of quotations, how individual managers think about position sizing. But there's no scientific way of doing position sizing. I mean, of course, the most scientific way is that what is your expected return for next 2 years or 3 years, whatever horizon. You must highest expected return should get the highest allocation simply. But what happens is the highest expected return is in a stock which you know the least. The confidence is least. And there you don't have courage to buy a lot. But having bought little, it can grow to 10 times or 20 times. So when HDFC Bank got listed in 95, it got listed for 40 bucks. For 1,000 crores, you could get the entire HDFC Bank, as much you wanted. But we didn't have courage to buy big time. I mean, 5%, 10% of the portfolio we didn't buy. What happened? The stock, it has become 7 lakh crore, 700 times plus dividends. And we have very small quantity than what we could have had. So position sizing of a successful company is the smartest thing to do. And of course, as the success starts building, you should be able to buy more and more, keep watering the flowers and keep rooting out the weeds. That's the game of Peter Lynch. But there is no one formula but keep betting on the convictions. It doesn't matter you bought at 10, it has become 20. If the upside downside ratio is favorable, if upside is still 10 times and downside is 50%, 10%, 20%, still you must keep increasing the allocation. There is always a lure in the stock market to buy their new name. अरे भाई मैंने ये 5 लाख का खरीद लिया या 10 लाख का खरीद लिया या 2 करोड़ का खरीद लिया. See, very few people think in terms of percentages. I always think only in terms of percentage. I mean, how much you are managing, I don't care. If your portfolio is what 20 crores, I mean, you talk about 5%, and 5% is a crore. If you are 20 lakhs, then also your 5% is 1 lakh rupees. So talk in terms of pie, and based on that, keep allocating, and that will help. That will help the position sizing, because if you do position sizing emotionally, because when you're managing large amount of money, say 100 crores, and in that when the new idea comes, you will not buy. अरे मेरे को 2,500 शेयर खरीदने का है. अरे but 2,500 शेयर is how much? 25 lakh, 10 lakh, 20 lakh. It will have no impact on your portfolio. So position sizing to that extent is important. If you've done your homework, you're convinced, please buy few percentages to start with, maybe 2%, 2.5% minimum. And as you, of course, your research and understanding will improve as you have bought it. Then after that, you can take it from 3%, 4%, 5%, then keep increasing. Because the successful life of a successful company is much longer than most of the investors think. So you don't have to be the earliest bird. Yes, early bird does help, but you don't have to be earliest bird. I mean, I'm pretty happy buying after you have bought and it has doubled. No, I don't have any problem.
This is so true, sir. In a journey of a stock which is going to be a multi-bagger, leaving.
Hello. Vishal?
Yes, sir. I think Ashish is back. Ashish is back.
Right. Okay, Ashish. Go ahead.
My apologies, sir, for the net connection inconvenience. So I'm saying in the journey of a multi-bagger, it really doesn't matter that you lose a few percentage points initially.
Yeah.
Sir, in this thing, sometimes a lot of notable investors advise that don't go against the market. For example, you bought a stock at 100 and it starts falling. Now, there could be confidence on your part that I am right and you can keep averaging down. Or at the slim probability that you could go wrong and blow up your capital. So could you advise investors that maybe you should average upwards as the story plays out, as the market realizes, have market validation on your side versus going against the market? Any thoughts on that, sir?
See, average down to my kiya nahi hai. I don't like to catch the falling knife, particularly if it is falling. Very rarely I would like to buy a stock which is significantly below my purchase price. I mean, fundamentally, it doesn't sound a logic, but it unnerves me. Then I start feeling that probably I don't understand what is going on. I mean, if I think some stock is worth 1,000 rupees, I buy 2-3% in my portfolio, and then the stock goes to say 800, and obviously there will be noise around that particular happening. So I don't have courage to go and buy at 800 big time. So I would do 10 times more check before I buy. But basically, classically, I'm not a averaging down kind of a guy. But I buy heavily when I enter in first time. I'll buy if I want to buy 3%, 2.5%. I'll do the first shot.
Sure.
In fact, I'll move the stock price because I buy in a big chunk, and then I'll wait. And if the quarterly result, the first quarterly result is very important. If quarterly result comes, what I do back up the envelope calculation for my quarterly result with my research and all. And if it works out, and I keep constantly doing this quarterly stuff. So if I am expecting a company to make, say, about 60 crores, optimistically 60 crores and pessimistically, say 50 crores, 50 to 60 crores for the quarter. And if the stock does, say 60 plus, then I go and, buy more. But if it makes significantly below 50 crores, then I'm scared, So it all depends on whether we are understanding. And after 3-4 quarters of management meeting the guidance or meeting the company delivering the result the way I'm thinking, then I think my understanding of the complete company is complete, and I'm comfortable. And then I can average down as well as average up. Then nobody can shake me. Once the company in my portfolio has done well for me, and I have understood the company, then I can be pretty confident.
Got it, sir. Sir, there's one thing in this thing that sometimes you get a stock correct. You understand the process and it starts performing as per expectations, and it really creates wealth for you. But it starts looking expensive now. While you're sitting on a lot of profits, do you let it ride, or do you think about how would you think about selling or holding on a stock? Because a lot of wealth is created when stocks go into the next orbit. And sometimes when you also see those profits coming back because you didn't book. So that dilemma which investors face, anything on the selling and holding rule which you would like to share, sir?
Yeah, so this is from the bad experience I had in last 3 years. I'm sharing my pain. Okay, it is not experience, it is just pain, pure simple pain. So, when the underlying stock is cyclical, you must be you must encash on your big profits, and I'm quite sure the cycle is going to play. It is going to live by its reputation. It is going to collapse. But before the top, and you can never get the top. So before the top, say Maruti has to go to 10,000. So at 8,000, 9,000 only start at least reducing the allocation. But if it is Hindustan Lever or Nestle, I would not touch it because they're not cyclicals. They will of course they'll go to say 3,000 and it come down to 2,400. But you don't have to worry about it. It will be temporary. The down will be temporary and up will be, it will make a new high very quickly. So because the business is not cyclical, you are consuming the products every day and night. So my behavior towards both the companies will be very different. In fact, on lever kind of company, I'll be buy and hold peacefully till I want to stay. And in cyclical companies, I would try to kind of take profits at the tops. I've not been able to do it, but that would be my desire.
Got it, sir. Sir, in these times, how do you reconcile when markets and economies are a complete disconnect? Does it give you some kind of thought process in terms of how to look at portfolio allocation? And because completely disconnect, economy is telling something else and markets are telling something else. Any thoughts there, sir?
Yeah, this is very, very rarely it happens, and COVID is in any case extraordinary. So the broader economy is in doldrums. So what I'm understanding is the businesses whose earnings power is not impacted. Earnings are impacted, but earnings power is not impacted. So I'll give you an example. I was talking with one cricket player. He said it is like Sachin Tendulkar. Sachin Tendulkar's batting average is say 46 or 47. But there is no guarantee that in the next inning, whether he'll score double century or he'll be a duck. So when he is a duck, like the current years of the earnings, it doesn't mean that Sachin Tendulkar is useless. So and when he makes 200, it doesn't mean that every time he's going to make 200. So I think stocks are like that. Stock market is right now there. So what market is doing, like Indigo is completely bankrupt right now. They don't have business. They're incurring losses, thousands of crores, and yet it is all-time high. So that's what you're not able to connect. But what is happening is all other competition is dead. Actually, there is nobody flying. Everybody is flying with the blood. So they're all dead, actually. Government of India is not able to sell Air India. Aviation is in mess. But this country needs to fly 100 million passengers every year, 120 million passengers every year. So who's going to do it? Indigo looks to be almost a natural monopoly now in India. So what market is saying is that post-COVID, they will have 60-70% market share, 60% market share, and they will be able to sell tickets at the price at which they want to sell. So earlier they made profit of say 2,500 crores. Hopefully in the first 3 years post-COVID, they might make 5,000 crores profit. So these are all kind of estimates or thinking which people are doing. So there is some method in the madness, even in this market. But I can tell you, markets are favoring where earnings power are not permanently damaged. Wherever damage is permanent, I think markets are punishing them also.
So true, sir. Sir, in terms of corporate governance, it is not a static picture in terms of managements. It keeps evolving. So what is your view on managements which have a great business model, may have done some historical blunders or some misgovernance, but are gradually improving? And the business models are too good to be missed out. Would you like to throw some thoughts on corporate governance or management's evaluation?
Yeah, so management, reputation is built over decades. Literally decades, I'm telling you. Howsoever good you do, but reputation cannot be built overnight. The real long-term asset of any company is the reputation. Whatever reputation they have earned. But in India, a lot of people, they don't think like that. They don't bother about reputation, and they pick a fight or they throw their reputation on the wayside.
Sure.
So if the companies, they do it, you imagine if reputation is bad, what kind of talent you will attract? And without talent, what can you do? So, any company, जो पीछे में हो गया, वहाँ से if it is improving, you have to take it positively, I would say.
Great, sir. I think we'll also like to take some audience questions, sir. A lot of audience has been asking questions. So I'll take your permission to start with a few audience questions.
Please go ahead.
So the first question is from Sir Ayush Tandon, who is asking, what is the biggest setback in your professional career and how do you deal with it? Did you shake your confidence from the stock market?
Stock market. No, stock market, I think it is a one-way street, in the sense that once you start from zero, and if you don't speculate, I never speculate. And I never borrow. So if you don't borrow, you cannot go beyond zero. How can you go below zero? So if you have 100 crores, you can lose 100 crores. If I have 1,000 crores, I can lose 1,000 crores. So I started from zero. So for me, to be worse than from where I started is very tough. Second, I think once I felt in 2002-03, not that it shook my confidence in the stock market, but I thought probably my profession is not good, though I love it, but because the bear market or post 9/11, economy was in shambles, and 2 months we incurred losses. So that kind of actually that made us fight a lot more at that point of time. But that was a bad patch. I still remember when we cut the salaries of employees for 2 months. That scar is still there in my mind. But beyond that, I don't think I ever disliked the stock market, or I ever had even one iota of doubt that we can't make it here. Never.
Great, sir. Very inspiring, sir. Sir, Namit Arora and Mahesh Tyagarajan have a question. They would like to know about your Bharti Airtel as a stock pick, which you had done, and your lessons from it, and some thoughts on the telecom sector now.
Yeah. So again, we are back in Bharti Telecom. No, we have not made money, but yes, I think telecom has gone full circle from it was a clear value migration from wired phone to wireless phone, and very exciting. The country, I mean, country of 1.2, 1.3 billion people had 40 million phones in 2002 or 2001. 40 million BSNL MTN line. And it's a crazy thing. I don't know how this country was functioning without telephone. I mean, for everything you have to, if you have to walk, if you have to talk, you have to walk. That was the situation. So without telephone, this country was working. And when this wireless came, it was nuts. Every quarter it was going by 100%. And I did the same compounding thing. I mean, I knew compounding from 91. I learned compounding. I'm telling you, one thing you must learn in the stock market is compounding. It's very simple. You have to practice it day in, day out. Compounding is rule of 72 and things like that. So this, I'm kind of, I've developed a good knack of doing compounding. So in 2003, I still remember 23rd January, quarterly call of Bharti Airtel, and Sunil Bharti Mittal comes and says that we have broken even. And that was the point of time I was waiting for. They had gone public 1 year before at 45. And we made everybody sell fastest finger first. And we beat down the stock to 19 bucks. At 19 bucks, this call happens. And so the bankers used to tell me, Ramdev, you don't know how to value a telecom company. I said, you guys don't know how the stock market works. So हमको क्या मालूम यार रेड बटन क्या है ग्रीन बटन क्या है हमको तो खाली पैसा कमाने से मतलब है. So that was the kind of a conversation we used to have with the bankers. But finally, we fell in love with Bharti, and we started coming to Delhi and started meeting the management and all, and started understanding the game. So at 23, 24 rupees, we bought the stock. And see, when I bought at 24 rupees, I bought 1,25,000 shares. And promptly in next 3 days, all the well-wishers and friends, they said, this stock doesn't belong to you. It's a useless stock for you. Very capital intensive, ye wo bol bol ke हाथ पकड़ के मेरे को बिचवा दिया. So by the time I sold, it was 30 bucks. It was moving so fast. At 30, I was little. Then I said 25,000 shares I'll keep. That is my profit. So I kept 25,000, and then it promptly went to 33, 34. So then these guys, they all went quiet because they were wrong, and it all happened within 1 month, 2 months. So then I bought 10x. I bought 1 million share at 34. You are saying no that averaging down or averaging up. I bought double at 34. Sorry, 10x at 34. It went to 87 in 6 months time. 87, 90. At 90, my analyst went and joined Reliance Arcom. And he started threatening from there. Ramdev, Mukesh bhai will crush you guys. I mean, crush Bharti. And तुम लोग को सबका पैसा डूब जाएगा. I mean, with a good well-wisher. So हमको बोला कि भाई मुकेश भाई से डरना चाहिए. 50% we sold again. The stock came down to 87. From 87, you can see the chart. 87, it went to 150. Okay, very quickly in 6 months time. Again, I doubled or tripled. I don't know how many times. I had some 10, 11 lakh shares at the top. So I again multiplied at 147. 90 में बेच के मैंने 147 में खरीदा. The stock in next 6 months went to 1180. I mean, you see the kid. I was still a kid. To see 25 rupees going to 1180, 50x, and every single stock I'm holding, thanks to Warren Buffett sahab. And there then Motilal ji comes and says that Ramdev abhi bahut ho gaya, abhi tu base hai thoda. I said, मैं बोला अभी तो कहानी चालू हुई है. I was so confident. And then 2G scam happened. And they went to Africa and we sold everything at 650 at half the price. I still made 25x. So the learning is that you should have vision. You should be able to visualize the future of the businesses. Because market cannot visualize. You can visualize. Market is today's opinion is today's price, tomorrow's opinion is tomorrow's price. So if the market's opinion is not that visionary, in that case, you have an edge. Okay, so you have to have vision about the company, bigger vision than the company itself. Let me tell you, I mean, many times entrepreneurs don't have the vision what analysts have for the company. Because the entrepreneur is busy in his own day-to-day affair. And second is the courage to buy. You see what happens. I mean, how many times I persisted with my courage? At 23, at 30, then 90, and then 147. And finally, I gave up at 650. So you have to have courage. And then the patience. The whole thing lasted 3 years, 4 years. So I had to be in the game, you know. So there are a lot of learnings of investing and this thing. I mean, in India, handling success is very difficult. Most of the entrepreneurs, they are not able to handle big success. And if entrepreneur is able to handle, then government will not help them handle the success. You know, so they issued, instead of 3 licenses, they issued 17 licenses. So pura kahani badal gaya telecom. So handling success is a big problem in India. And it comes in the head of the entrepreneurs. They have some crazy cars and offices, and I mean, living style changes, the communication changes. People stop talking to the analysts. उनको लगता है भगवान बन गए वो लोग. So, you know, वो सबसे फिर वो then decline starts. So we have seen all of it while investing in telecom. I mean, Bharti and all. But every investment teaches you something, good and bad.
Great, sir. Sir, Paresh Revar is asking about the role of sounding boards and mentors. Any things you would like to comment there?
See, you need a hero. I mean, you need some kind of a guru to help you. I mean, it could be guru in this world. Guru could be away somewhere like, for me, Warren Buffett Sahab is guru for me. Some people, they are blessed with getting somebody out here, you know, so they have to be guru, they have to be mentor, they have to keep guiding you somewhere other. So yes, there's a huge role, and earlier the better, because then you will not be, you know, what do you call, loafing around long time in the market. I mean, I started in, say, I passed out in 83. So then after that 11 years, I mean, 10, 11 years, I was roaming around here and there, thinking that I'm the smartest guy. Till I realized, when I heard about Buffett and read about him, then I realized I don't know even ABCD of investing. So the guru will tell you where you stand and how to go about.
Great, sir. Sir, Manoj Kumar and Vinod Malviya are asking about leverage and the role of FNO. Any thoughts on using derivatives, sir?
Yeah, see, whatever you're good at, definitely use. I'm not good at it. I don't have a stomach. You know, and call, option and all. First thing I don't understand. Call still I understand. Put I don't understand. So I have no clue how this FNO works. And I'm not comfortable with that. But if you are comfortable, you're good at what you do, you keep making money, there cannot be faster way of making money than FNO. And that is a greed for which people go. And everybody loses. So for say about 100,000 customers, there will be 10 or 15 who might be winning. So the stakes are hugely against you, but still you can give a try.
Sir, Anuj Gupta and Riya Mehta are basically asking about which sectors are going to work maybe in the future, maybe chemicals, pharma, electronic manufacturing. Sir, any general thoughts in terms of sectors which one could see trends coming for the decades or maybe for some time to come?
See, what has worked for a very long time, and I don't have any reason to that it will not work, is anything to do with the consumer. In India, consumer is most dependable. Their numbers are growing, their incomes are growing, and a lot of consumer companies don't have, they're monopolistic in character. So those companies, businesses will do very well. They're also expensive, but any new company coming around in the consumer space will do very well. Then on top of it, this pharma, chemical, that's a new buzzword. All these manufacturing companies, contract manufacturing companies and all. So yes, they are the new birds or new buzz, whatever you say, in the new fad also. So you have to be careful how much you buy into them. And yes, they are good. Right now, tailwind is around them. But I think anything around consumer will do well in the long run.
Got it, sir. Sir, any thoughts on the QSR space or the organized retailing space in terms of future? What do you see there?
Yeah, retailing is very exciting again around consumer. So retailing is, and retailing may not be only grocery retailing. There can be various formats of retailing. And so if somebody is able to catch the attention of the customer and satisfy the customer, I think he will keep making money. So it can be retail brokerage, it can be retail jewelry, it can be retail bookshops, it can be retail whatever. You don't have to have retail pizza or all kinds of retailing can happen. And of course, grocery is also there. So yes, retailing is a very powerful concept.
Sir, Akriti Singhania is asking how reliable are the CRISIL and other ratings of websites like Money Control while selecting a fund to invest? And how should one maybe read these ratings to decide on funds to invest?
Frankly, I have not used any one of them. Neither I buy anybody. So I can't comment. I better stay away from that.
Sure. Sir, there are a few questions on cash calls. Anuj Jain is asking, I think you already answered, but if you'd like to just add something, that do you take cash calls based on macro environment or you believe to be 100% invested at all times?
Yeah, I believe 100% invested all the time. And when the market goes down, it's painful for me also. But that's how it works. I mean, it is painful for a few months. But when it comes back like at 12,000, of course, we didn't know the market is going to collapse, but it plunged to 7,600. I realized that things are bad by the time it was 9,000. Now I said, I missed the 3,000. And now if I sell from here, by the time I complete my sell, market would have bottomed out. And so, I mean, of course, it is not in my DNA to kind of go cash and things like that. So I never bothered. And that has kept me very happy because I don't spend my energy every day in trying to figure out whether market is top or bottom. I don't bother because I keep looking for the stocks. And I know, I mean, if I buy something at $1,000, when the market falls by 20%, my stock will also fall by 20% or 30%, whatever. I'm only worried about one thing. If I buy a stock and I expect the earnings to happen in a particular way, and if earnings are way out or the management is not behaving in a rational fashion. See, businesses may not perform because of some external events. But when the managements don't do things in a rational way, then that scares me out. And then I run away. So that is it is very important that you are invested in a good business run by good predictable management.
Sir, there's a question from Sarvanan where he is asking about promoter holdings. There are companies which have almost zero promoter holdings and run professionally. ITC, HDFC banks. There's not one promoter group driving it. Versus you have companies where they have a strong promoter holding and skin in the game. Is there something in terms of preference or how should one look at it or be neutral about promoter holdings?
See, India is still a predominantly entrepreneurial. So wherever the family is there, first generation, I prefer the first generation. When they are there, they are the innovators, they are the entrepreneurs, and they whip the company to logical levels, very high levels. So making of the companies are always done by the promoters. Even L&T or ITC, if you go back into the history, they were promoters. I mean, there were some entrepreneur who built it. And then later on, it has it has been given to the professionals to manage. And they made it successfully very large. So generally, entrepreneur spirit is one of the very important thing for creation of wealth, because he has the ambition to create wealth, not the professional. So professionals are good if a ship is running. If it is making 1,000 crores, they are good to take it to 2,000 crores. But the first 1,000, zero to one, is very tough. I mean, that is the toughest part. And that 0 to 1 journey is done by the entrepreneur. And 1 to infinite is taken care of by the professionals. Even the entrepreneur uses professionals to carry out the journey. So I'm kind of very situation dependent. If the company is well done, then we have to bother about the quality of management and things like that, and not either this side or that side.
Got it, sir. Sir, any thought? There's a question by Sarvanan. Any thoughts on the SEBI ruling on the multi-capping funds, which has come recently, and what challenges could we face in the industry going forward for that?
Yeah, I think, see, SEBI has, I don't know what is the objective of doing this, but SEBI wants, when you say multi-cap, it should be multi-cap. You know, that's the simple, and that's what I'm hearing. But it is not simply multi-cap because market structure is 75% large cap and 25% mid and small. So basically, most of the funds are around 75-80% large cap, and on the side 10-15% mid and small. So, and the issue is the size of the funds, because in the current given construct, a lot of money has come because it's the perfect way of managing money, flexible way of managing money, and clients liked it and they put money in there. In fact, my only recommendation is that don't bother about mid cap, small cap and all, large cap and all. Just put money in multi cap and let the fund take a call what cap he wants to buy. That used to be the simple recommendation. Now, SEBI says, no, when you are multi cap, stand to this thing that you should be 1/3 large cap, 1/3 mid cap, 1/3. I think it's a nightmare. For a large fund, it is a nightmare. So I think representation is going to the SEBI. SEBI, honorable SEBI members, what they do, I don't know. But I think they should have come out with a new scheme called Flexi scheme, where, or you take away the multi-cap, call it Flexi, what is there right now, you call it Flexi cap scheme, and take your coveted multi-cap name and do whatever with the incremental. And if the investors, they love it, they will give money there. Why destabilize the way things are managed right now? And clients are happy. There's no client complaint.
Got it.
So let's see in what form finally comes out. Otherwise, one has to change the classification. It's because, see, I mean, it is not against AMC. It is against the client. The SEBI move, if at all it is unfavorable, it is unfavorable to the clients. Because it is, I mean, if I change anything, the negative thing, I mean, if I go and buy 30% mid cap today at 20% higher price, I mean, who's going to pay? The clients are going to pay, which is the worst thing to happen. So I think, Senar, I mean, the advice from the consultation with the industry will prevail, and there are a lot of ways whereby we can manage the current construct. I mean, we can change the classification from mid cap to large cap, or we can do focused large cap. We can go thematic funds. So there are a lot of options. Let's see. I mean, it's just 12 hours old. A lot of discussions are on. You might be seeing the WhatsApp.
Sure.
So let's see. I mean, in what form SEBI accepts the suggestions.
Thank you so much.
But I don't think there will be any panic.
Sure.
I think everybody will be able to find some way out.
Great, sir. Great view, sir. Ravi is asking basically, and a few more investors are also asking, your thoughts on investing abroad also. So nowadays, a lot of companies have become global and are not listed on Indian exchanges. So any thoughts of investing abroad, maybe in the fund later on, or advice for investors?
See, some of the business, thanks to internet, a lot of business becoming truly global. I mean, Arkan Corporation is very global. I mean, they had offices all over the world. But now, I mean, Netflix customer is all over. They may not have office in India or anywhere, and yet the customers are there, because truly internet is global. It's a global distribution platform. Internet per se is a global international global platform. So a lot of services companies, like whether it is a Google, whether it is a Microsoft, whether it is a even Amazon. Amazon is not that friction free, but these companies are truly global. I mean, I have not invested, but I'm fascinated by these companies, and there's no harm in trying to learn how to invest in these companies.
Got it, sir. So next question is by Manoj Jain. How do we protect our wealth from promoters like DHFL, Yes Bank, Reliance Power? Any thoughts more on the corporate governance thing which we discussed earlier? Any further thoughts on that?
See, if you have quality framework, if you have some kind of filter to buy good companies, good business and good management, एक आध ऐसा आ जाएगा, एक आध एक्सीडेंट होगा. I mean, if COVID is there in Delhi, you can try to avoid, but still there is a 1% chance that you may also get it, howsoever confined you are. So it is that kind of thing. In the system, if there are too many cases of fraud and corruption, one or two will definitely hit you. But that should not be the reason for anybody to stay away from the market. Yes, one must put a quality filter on the management, and the greed should not overtake. You know what happens is that a lot of management, you know, they are bad, but the greed that next rate is going to double, or this chairman is saying in the steam bath that you buy it now, it will double and all, and people end up buying. So if you're not done your homework, you don't understand the company and go and buy, obviously the outcome can be quite nasty. So if you know, that's why I said what you do, what is most important is whether you understand. And understanding means understanding the business and understanding the integrity of the management. If you don't understand that, why should you buy?
Sir, there are again a few questions, again, basically on staying invested in markets. So basically India-China standoff right now, US-North Korea war earlier, all these things, the investors get jittery a lot. So as you mentioned that you stay invested, any further thoughts on, because these kind of events keep happening, something Corona,
Yeah,
sometimes.
some of the things you know, some of the things you don't know. I mean, there are far more serious things happening against and for. I mean, what happens in news channels? They depict something way bigger than what is the problem. And there are so many things which are happening which are so much bigger. They don't even mention it. Positives. I mean, actually, media is supposed to report only negatives. Positives, however big it is, it never gets reported. So how do you handle that? Why should you get fearful? The world is working. Your own business is working. I think you must go and check your own business. Is the business fine? If your business is doing well, or your 5 friends, their business are doing well, economy is in good shape.
Sir, there's a question from Rahul Gupta and Jatin Goyal about startups. How some of them are being valued crazily. There's little money being made by them. Any thoughts on how to look at these startups, or thoughts how they impact the valuation framework going forward?
Yeah, so fortunately, there are not too many listed in the stock market, so I don't know how to apply my head. But I mean, see, what you don't understand, you don't do it. So I don't invest in promotional companies. I never invest in company which doesn't make profits. That has kept me in good shape, and I don't have to bother about something which is not making money, but it is valued 10,000 crores or $20 billion or $30 billion. वो जिनको समझ में आता है उनको करने दो. वहाँ भी तो कुछ काम होगा. I mean, let them leave something for them also.
Sir, in terms of investing in IPO, Buffett mentions that I don't invest in IPOs, but in India, there have been some great franchises which come via IPO. Any thoughts that on investing in IPOs, or how should we look at it?
No, so one of the problem with IPOs is that you don't get the allocation what you want. For a large investor, say he is a $500 billion investor, who Buffett. I mean, to get any meaningful allocation is impossible. This time they are putting in one technology company, they put $200-300 million pre-IPO. So now he's also, the old man is trying to learn the game. So clearly, if you are getting something at reasonable price, and you can, if not the IPO, you buy on the day one of the listing. You know. So I also don't apply for the IPO. And I don't apply because I know I'm not going to get. I want 1,000 crores, I get 25 crores. अभी क्या करने का उसको? मतलब मरा ना मोटा है, you know, like 25 crores लेके ना तो रख सकते हैं ना भाग सकते हैं वहाँ से. So it is better to, you know, let the whole game be over, let it get listed on the day one. We'll be ready to play the game.
So there's a question by Mohit Tantia and a related question in terms of skin in the game. So in terms of mutual funds, a lot of fund managers have skin in the game, and the family offices also have skin in the game. So maybe could you share some experiences in terms of Motilal Oswal? To my knowledge, they also have a significant skin in the game in their funds, and your philosophy behind it.
Yeah, so basically sincerity in fund management is one of the very important things. You know, like say this multi-cap fund today, the largest investor is me. You know, I mean about 7-8% of the fund It's a 12,000 crore fund. So I must be owning more than almost like 8 to 10% of the fund. So I'm truly concerned. So I know what exactly the customer is expecting. So I can make changes whatever SEBI is saying, but that is not good for the customer. So I'm more concerned about the customer. Customer centricity will come only if your own skin is there in the game. Otherwise, it's a piece of paper. And it is a lot of piece of paper. You see the banks where there is some kind of ownership, there the lending is responsible. Otherwise, सब जो बंदा जिसको 5 लाख 10 लाख रुपए सैलरी मिल रहा है 15 लाख सैलरी मिल रहा है वो 1000 को लैंड करके चला जाता है 2 साल रिटायर रहता है उसको क्या पड़ी है कि 1000 करोड़ वापस आता ही नहीं आता है एंड हाउ डू यू रन अ बैंक सो इससे बुरा तो उससे ज्यादा खतरनाक ये भी है देयर इज नो कोलेटरल व्हेन आई एम बाइंग भारती और हीरो होंडा आई एम नॉट गेटिंग सम कोलेटरल फ्रॉम द मैनेजमेंट एंड आई एम बाइंग एट फैंसी प्राइस 10 रुपए का शेयर 5 रुपए का शेयर हम खरीद रहे 3000 रुपए में सो that bringing that ownership and commitment and a fail-proof process, you need skin in the game, and that's what at Motilal Oswal we have 100% skin in the game, and between me, Motilal ji, his family, even the company listed companies 50% is with us. So from all point of view, whatever we have done, either it is a private equity or in the public equity. So everything we invest here, and that keeps also again peaceful mind. I don't have to take care of any, external fund manager. लोग क्या हो रहा है, ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है. मेरे कोई मतलब नहीं भैया मेरे घर में क्या करने का है, मेरे को नहीं करने का. हर जगह गलती होती है, मेरे यहाँ भी गलती होती है. लेकिन मेरे यहाँ गलती, it is hurting me also. Let me correct myself and enjoy the fruits of what we have done.
Great, sir. So there's a question from Ayush Chandan. He's basically asking about your journey in AU Small Finance Bank. What you saw there, that's been a big success. Any lessons and learnings would you like to share with all of us?
We have to winding up now, huh?
Sure.
Because it's already 3:33. Yeah.
Sure.
The last one or two questions. Yeah.
Sure, sir.
Go ahead.
So any experiences and learnings from AU Finance Small Bank? It's been a big success for Motilal Oswal.
Yeah, so it was wonderful investing with them. In private equity, we started in 2007, and for 50 crores, 60 crores total valuation, we bought the company, and we gave them 20 crores, and we got I think 37% or something. Today, that same bank is I think 25,000 crores, and I think it is likely to become very, very large bank in the course of time if they remain as successful as they were in the past. So, to be able to see this kind of success is very rarely it comes across you. There are successes, but you to see the success early is a very different ballgame.
Got it, sir. Sir, in terms of books, a lot of investors. Yeah, last question, sir. So, in terms of books, could you just suggest a few books for investors which they should read up? And maybe throw some lights on your book, Art of Wealth Creation, for our audience. That would be the last question, sir.
No, that's a summation of my wealth creation studies. So yes, it's a nice book for anybody who want to catch up with the summary of the studies, what we learned in various studies. But books, blogs, articles, YouTubes, TED Talks. I mean, the whole lot of things are available, but I think books are very, very important.
Okay. Great, sir. I think it was a wonderful session today with Direct Dil Se, you sharing your experiences with all humility. And I would like to thank from all participants and our NGOs, Roundtable India, Ladies Circle India, Perfect Foundation, Perfect Research for a great session. Participants and friends, any unanswered questions, you can reach out to the connects mentioned here, Vishal, Rakya, and Deepak Sidhu, and people from Motilal Oswal Wealth for any further queries or maybe talking further, taking up your questions further. We all understand that time has a limit and sir has tried his best to answer questions, but there will be unanswered questions. Vishalji, would you like to add something?
No, that's it. I mean, I'd just like to thank everybody for logging in and listening to Ramdev ji. It's always an inspiration listening to him. And if you have any other queries, especially on fund management, how to select a fund, asset allocation, any queries on how to review your portfolios, do write to us. We have given our details. And with that, I would just like to thank Ramdevji for taking out so much time for us. And thank you, Ashish, for putting this together. It was indeed a great session to have on a Saturday. Thank you so much. And we can all log off now.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.